What's going on, guys, and welcome back to WrestleRant, where I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the pay-per-views that I watch on the WWE Network as well as on the Impact Plus streaming service. Since Halloween is on Thursday, I thought I would switch it up a little bit here on WrestleRant today, kind of like I did for Bound for Glory a few weeks ago. I think about a week ago, actually. I broke down the 2012 Bound for Glory pay-per-view here on WrestleRant, the weekend of Bound for Glory from Impact. I've been reviewing, other than that, a lot of ECW pay-per-views here on WrestleRant, but again, because Halloween is in a couple days, I thought I would switch it up a little bit. I was actually going to break down the 30-year anniversary of the NWA WCW Halloween Havoc show from 1989, only to find out, and I completely forgot about this, and this was only a couple of months ago, I already watched and reviewed that show here on WrestleRant earlier on this year, so I'm thinking, what other Halloween Havoc shows can I watch instead? And there's a lot of good ones out there, and I thought the only one that made sense, for right now anyway, was the 1990 show, just because I already watched and reviewed the 1989 show a few months ago. This is the next one, and today actually marks 29 years to the day that it originally aired, which is pretty cool. So on the 29-year anniversary of Halloween Havoc 1990, here we are breaking it down for you fine folks here today. The first match saw, let me pull up my notes here for a moment, Tommy Rich and Ricky Morton taking on the team of the Midnight Express, of course, with Jim Cornette in their corner. Tommy Rich replaced Robert Gibson, the original Rock and Roll Express. I'm not sure why he wasn't there. Maybe he was injured. They made it known that Tommy Rich was replacing Gibson, so this wasn't a bait and switch. It wasn't isn't that supposed to be somebody else type of thing? Like, they made it very well known coming into the match that it was Tommy Rich and Ricky Morton as opposed to Robert Gibson and Ricky Morton. But it was still a very good match. I thought both teams worked well together. It wasn't the matches that we were, used to seeing, the same matches that you would know from the Midnight Express versus the Rock and Roll Express, but it was still quite good, and it was a nice farewell for the Midnight Express. I'm not sure if they knew at this point that, that being Jim Cornette and Stan Lane, I'm not sure if they knew now, at this point when the pay-per-view happened, that they were leaving WCW, but they went on soon after this. I think this was their last match in WCW. They ended up leaving soon after to form Smoky Mountain Wrestling, actually, so kind of a fun fact there, but this was a really good match. Closer to the finish, we had a tag team called the Southern Boys interfere. Now, I have never heard of this tag team before. I'm not sure what other names they might have gone by, but they got involved closer to the finish, and they were dressed as Jim Cornette. I guess fitting for Halloween, I suppose. That allowed Tommy Rich to pick up the win over Stan Lane after hitting Stan Lane with Jim Cornette's own tennis racket, his signature tennis racket. Hit Stan Lane with that, picked up the win for his team. Interestingly enough, Tommy Rich really didn't do much in this match at all. Most of it was Ricky Morton, which might have been for the better, but I thought it was weird that Tommy Rich was barely involved in this thing aside from the beginning and aside from the ending as well. So he picked up the win for his team despite not doing much. But it was a really good match, though, and I thought it was a solid way to kick off the show. And we had a lot of tag team matches on the show, by the way. And I should note this, I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the review. The show is around 2 hours long. It's about an hour and 54 minutes. And when I was double checking the results on Wikipedia to make sure I got the times right and the finishes right and stuff like that, I saw that there were more matches that actually happened on the show than what they showed on the network. Apparently what we see on the network, I'm not sure if this is the case with just this show or all the other WCW NWA pay-per-views I've watched so far here for WrestleRant, because a lot of those shows were almost 2 hours too. This one was 2 hours because it really was 3 hours, but they cut out a lot of matches. Now, granted, they were matches that really weren't all that important, so it's probably for the better they weren't included in the network version. But yeah, this is an edited down version, I suppose, for the VHS release. And usually the WWE Network will include the full matches, the full shows, even though the VHS releases only had an edited down version. Well, this was the edited down version, so I don't know if there's a fuller version out there somewhere, but this was the edited version with a number of matches cut out, which again, I'm not complaining after seeing what matches took place that didn't air here on the network. I can't say I really missed much, but it is worth noting though. So again, like I said, a lot of tag team matches. Before we got to our next tag team match, I don't know what the fuck this was. I have never seen this before. I've never heard of this before, and I'm almost glad I didn't until now. A gimmick called the Black Scorpion showed up. the Black Scorpion. Now, again, WCW was notorious for a lot of bad gimmicks, a lot of bad characters. Don't get me wrong. But this seemed so fucking stupid. I know it was their Halloween show. I'm well aware that it was their Halloween show, okay? But Sting comes out. I think he's doing an interview. Near the ring, on the stage, whatever. The Black Scorpion, who looks like the fucking Phantom of the Opera, shows up, takes a fan or a stagehand or something, puts them on a platform, makes them disappear, and they reappear on the other side of the stage. It was some of the phoniest bullshit I have ever seen. The crowd actually gasped for part of this. And again, this is 1990, when you would think that, okay, they're past the bullshit, they're past the corny stuff. Apparently not, because some people were shocked by this disappearance of the fan, who ended up getting thrown into Sting by the Black Scorpion, which did end up coming into play a little later on in the show, so this wasn't completely pointless, but this character was so fucking dumb, and this skit really outdated WCW. Like, you could tell this was a 1990 show based off this segment, because this was so stupid. Not to say we don't see stupid stuff today on WWE TV and other promotions, but this was like, oh, scary, this is so spooky. It was dumb. It was dumb as fuck. So after that stupid segment, we had the Fabulous Freebirds taking on the Renegade Warriors, which was Chris and Mark Youngblood. Never heard of them before. And then the Fabulous Freebirds were managed by a little Richard Marley. Maybe he's always been their manager. I've never heard the name Little Richard Marley before. This match was no good. The Freebirds tried to make the most of it, but this went way too long. This lasted about 17, 18 minutes. Nothing overly exciting about it whatsoever. The Freebirds, if it wasn't for them, this match would have been complete garbage. But as it was, it really wasn't that good anyway. They tried to make it decent. They tried to salvage what they could from the Renegade Warriors. But that was really all there was to it. The Freebirds thankfully won. The only thing other really worth noting about this match is the fact that the Freebirds were really over. I'm not sure if they were supposed to be the faces or not, but they were loved by this crowd. They were beloved, absolutely. Over the Warriors, who got a lot of great heat. I'm not sure if that was the intention or not, but the actual match was no good. Then for the NWA United States Tag Team titles, we had the Steiner Brothers, who were the defending champions coming in and the champions coming out of the contest, taking on and defending the championships against the Nasty Boys. Now, I'm going to be quite honest with you. I had zero expectations for this match. I know the Steiner Brothers are good. They were good during their WWE, early WWE, WCW days, stuff like that. I'm well aware of their work and how great they were and how they're one of the greatest tag teams of all time. The Nasty Boys, from what I've seen of them over the last 15, 20 years or so, has not been good. So I was surprised they were as good here as they were. Maybe from what I understand after doing further research coming out of the show, because I'm curious, like, how is this match so good? Like, what was up with the Nasty Boys? The crowd was into it. They had a great performance. The Steiner Brothers were awesome as always, but, like, I was shocked that they did as well as they did here. I guess they were kind of in their prime while in WCW, and they were allowed to do a lot of, like, not like stupid brawling, like what we would see in ECW, where the entire match is brawling. But I thought the two styles these two teams worked were so similar that the match was entertaining as a result. But I guess they were kind of in there, maybe not just athletic prime in WCW, but their style kind of fit that style of wrestling more in WCW as opposed to WWE. Because, interestingly enough, I'm not sure if this was their last match in WCW, but they were gone from the company by December, like less than 2 months later, and signed with WWE immediately. That might have been the end of their run as a good tag team, because this was a great match, and anything else I've seen from them after this point was not so good. For the NWA World Tag Team Championship, we had Doom, which consisted of Ron Simmons and Butch Reed, who I think I talked about in my Halloween Havoc 1989 review. I know I've seen them on a show I've watched before. They were managed by Teddy Long, and they defended their championships against the Four Horsemen's Ric Flair and Arn Anderson. This was another really, really good match. Probably the best thing on the entire show. My only real nitpick of the match was the finish, which was a double countout, which was kind of underwhelming, kind of came out of nowhere. But it did set up a rematch for Starrcade, from what I understand, so it did serve a purpose. It wasn't a lame finish for the sake of a lame finish, but it protected both teams. The match was great. Flair and Arn were a great, great tag team. I mean, they had great chemistry anyway through the Four Horsemen. But anyway, as a tag team, which we didn't see all too often, because, you know, Arn was usually teaming with either Tully or Ole Anderson. Him and Flair, from what I understand, from what I know anyway, didn't team all that often, so I thought they made a great team here. Doom was really, really good at this point. They were fucking killing it. Both teams, I thought, put in a great performance, and for a near 20-minute match, there was never a dull moment throughout this entire thing. So I thought that was really impressive. So great stuff here. Obviously, as a result of the double countout, Doom retaining the NWA World Tag Team titles. And by the way, I should mention this too. The whole purpose of this match was that the Four Horsemen wanted all the gold, which is why Sid Vicious, who, yes, was apparently a part of the Four Horsemen back in 1990, went for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship a little later on in the show. And then Flair and Arn went for the tag titles here because they wanted all the championships. Spoiler, they didn't end the night with all the titles. We then had for the NWA United States Championship, Stan Hansen knocking off Lex Luger for the title. Nothing overly special about this at all. It was just kind of there. Dan Spivey, who ended up going to WWE, I think soon after this, unless he was already in WWE at this point, I don't remember, as that Bray Wyatt-esque character. The buzzard, the Bray Wyatt's buzzard in Firefly Funhouse is named after him. I don't remember his name, but Dan Spivey ended up interfering here to help out Stan Hansen. He threw in his signature cowbell, which he never ended up using. He tried to. It was thwarted by Lex Luger. In the end, Hansen ended up winning with a signature clothesline as Western Lariat to win the match and the championship. So the match was over within like 10 minutes. I'm glad it didn't go too long just because this wasn't all that great. It was good. It was all right, but it wasn't anything overly great. But the championship changing hands was newsworthy. And then in the main event for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, Sid Vicious, as I mentioned before, going for the gold against Sting. The match itself wasn't too great, and I'm shocked it didn't get a lot of time. It only went about 12 minutes. And for all these tag team matches on the show going 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 17 minutes, this only got 12 minutes, which I thought was weird. 12 minutes for a main event match seemed a bit out of place, even in 1990. But the match, it was good. I thought Sting really had to carry Sid here. I didn't really think Sid had an impressive performance at all. Sting was great as always. I thought he put in a great effort, great performance. I thought it was a decent match. The real, focus of the match was what happened in the second half of it. So Sting and Sid brawl to the back, and the Four Horsemen get involved. It turns into a whole mess, okay? So when they come back to the ring, I didn't realize this. I don't think anyone realized this. This is, I guess, part of the fun of not knowing the finishes. Not knowing the finishes to most of these matches is kind of being surprised with everyone else back in 1990 because I didn't know the results of a lot of these matches on these shows because I have yet to see them. But anyway, so Sting and Sid come back to the ring. Sid then pins Sting, not like immediately, but soon after, to seemingly become the new NWA World Heavyweight Champion. So he gets the whole celebration. The balloons come down. He's celebrating. No more than a minute later, almost immediately, another Sting comes out, starts brawling with Sid. The referee realizes, oh shit, that wasn't the real Sting. This is. Restarts the match. Sting wins with an inside cradle to retain the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. So let's break this down for a second. Like I said earlier, that whole Black Scorpion nonsense ended up playing a part in this thing because I guess the whole thing, the whole storyline was that the Black Scorpion, the excuse at the time was that he created this fake Sting to help Sid win the NWA World title. Now that seems incredibly random. It's so stupid, but it ended up making more sense later on, which again, they never made mention of this on the show itself. I had to do further research to find this out. And if you've already seen the show or know of WCW and NWA stuff, then you obviously probably already knew this. But as far as I knew, I didn't know what the fuck, what happened. I was so confused. So I had to look it up. So that's what the explanation was for the fake Sting being there. Come to find out much later on that the fake Sting was in fact Barry Windham, who had been back with WCW for the better part of 1990. He portrayed the fake Sting here so Sid Vicious can win the world championship because Barry, obviously a part of the Four Horsemen, wanted to help fellow Four Horsemen, Sid, win the championship. So it actually makes a lot of sense. In the moment, I thought it was a really stupid finish, and the match wasn't overly great, but in retrospect, after finding out what happened here, I thought it was very well done. If I paid $55 in 2019 and watched the show, I probably would have been pissed without seeing the aftermath from what happened. In the moment, it seemed like a really dumb finish, but in retrospect, I thought it was kind of smart, to be honest with you. I mean, not something I would do with every show, but Barry wanted to help, the Four Horsemen win all the gold, or at least specifically Sid become NWA World Heavyweight Champion, and he played his part, not realizing the real Sting would end up coming back out to retain his title. So again, I thought that was really, really smart. And the match itself wasn't overly great, but the angle itself I thought was, again, something innovative and something, not that even that we don't see often, because I don't think I've ever seen something like that happen. I know we've seen like copycats and people kind of move in and out. I know we saw it with Kurt Angle one time where he replaced a fake Kurt Angle with himself and beat Brock Lesnar on an episode of SmackDown. We've seen that before, but to this extent, I don't think so. But I thought this was a cool angle, which is something I was not going to say coming out of my initial viewing of the show, but after doing more research, I'm like, I came to appreciate the angle, so I thought it was well done. Overall, this was a good show, honestly, a lot better than I thought it would be. From 29 years ago today, Halloween Havoc 1990. If there's any one match to watch, it probably would be Doom versus Flair and Anderson. But the whole show kind of went by quick. Again, the edited version is only an hour and 54 minutes long. I'm not sure where you can watch the full version, if it's even out there, because this has been on the VHS release since the friggin' 90s. So I'm not even sure if there's a full version out there, which you don't really need to see anyway, because there's no real good must-see matches on that card regardless, aside from the ones they aired here. So again, a good show, honestly. A lot of those early NWA, WCW shows I'm not too fond of. A lot of the booking is questionable. The matches aren't all that great. This was the exception. So with Halloween being in a couple days, check out the 29-year anniversary of Halloween Havoc 1990 right now on the WWE Network. And thank you guys for checking out this video. I appreciate the support of the channel and the show and everything else. Be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video, drop a comment, like the video, and subscribe to the channel for more content. We'll be back tomorrow with my review of WWE The Day Of, I think focusing on SmackDown's 20-year anniversary. I know that airs tonight on the network, I think at 8 p.m., so I'll watch that, have a review of that up, hopefully tomorrow here on the channel. Then Tuesday, breaking down whatever airs after Raw on Monday. I think, actually, speaking of Teddy Long, who was also on the show, I think he's going to be on Table for 3 this Monday after Raw with Ron Simmons, maybe? I think it might be Teddy, Ron, and JBL, if I'm not mistaken, which is timely considering I just watched Halloween Havoc 1990. So that'll be airing after Raw on Monday, and my review should be up on Tuesday. Obviously, hashtag AskGSM up on Wednesday, and the WrestleRant Radio Halloween-themed excerpts going up on Halloween itself on Thursday. And a Total Divas Season 9 Episode 5, I think, review going up on Friday. So until then, guys, have a great rest of your weekend. I'm Graham G. Matthews. Enjoy Halloween on Thursday, and I'll catch your ass down the road.